Hello everyone, this is a guide for defeating Sha'Hala, Spectral Guardian of Narud. This is a fairly overwhelming boss fight with a lot going on at one time. That said, once you learn to read what's going on, I wouldn't say that this is too challenging of a boss fight. The footage shown is at world level 21 on Apocalypse, which is the hardest possible iteration of this boss. This guide does not cover any attacks from the version of the fight that uses the override pin. The fight will begin with floating hands assembling themselves at the front of the arena. The ones on your left will fire 2 beams horizontally before rotating to sweep the beam across the arena. Then, the ones on the right will do the same. The top beams fired are too high for you to have to worry about, but they will start moving first, to warn you of the bottom beam's movement. To avoid damage, simply roll forward and to the right for the first beam, and then forward and to the left for the second. During this first attack, additional blinking pointers will be aimed at the player from the top of the arena. These will fire beams after a short delay where they aim, but they will stop tracking the player a moment before firing. The positioning and timing of them make it so that you will not take damage from them as long as you keep moving throughout the attack. Using a backstep to avoid the moving beams will result in damage from these ones, so be sure to roll during this attack. This sequence, along with all others, will repeat throughout the fight. On the current patch, this attack can glitch and make the moving beams spawn way too high to damage the player, giving you a free moment to attack the boss. There's also another variant of these beams that doesn't usually appear until later in the fight, but it is much more complicated. Half of the floating hands will fire beams downwards, before sweeping them up across the arena. The other half will, like before, aim blinking pointers at you, before firing beams at your position. The safest way I was able to figure out to avoid this attack was to stand towards the back of the arena in the middle, and just slowly walk forwards in between the moving beams. However, if all else fails, you can run around and spam dodge wildly, and you probably won't die. Sha'Hala can also release several floating hands that release green balls that slowly move towards the player. These will deal damage on contact, but they can be destroyed before they reach you. As they approach, some of the balls will turn purple, aiming a blinking pointer at the player, before firing a slightly damaging laser afterwards. A sound cue will be played to alert you of the incoming damage, and can help you to time your dodge. This will destroy the ball afterwards. If you find yourself overwhelmed by the green balls, the worst thing you can do is panic. Just stay calm, keep shooting, and maybe take a hit or two if you really need to. This is better than spamming roll and eventually getting caught by all of the remaining green balls. This attack can be fairly difficult to deal with without a high capacity magazine, so consider using a sidearm like the repeater pistol or the Tech 22 if you aren't already. This attack also really bugs out against the Hunter's Shroud skill on the current patch, so you can use that to your advantage. The boss can also release 2 arcs of lightning that randomly path around the arena. They actually initially do no damage, but they will turn damaging after a few moments, making a loud sound and growing in size. This one is actually pretty harmless, as it leaves a lot of safe areas where you can stand, but you can also roll it if you're in a bad spot. After a few of these attacks, Sha'Hala will vanish and the arena will turn dark. Several things can happen at this point, but the first time it happens, small energy balls will usually begin to rise from the floor, dealing damage on contact. These are telegraphed with a small mark on the floor shortly before they emerge, so they can easily be avoided. Blinking pointers will also be aimed at the player before firing a damaging laser. Like the ones from earlier, a sound cue will be played, and so the player can dodge them fairly consistently if the timing is learned. After some time, fists will also emerge from the ground below the player. This is also accompanied by a sound cue. This may be dodged by rolling, but this may get you damaged by a laser that fires immediately after. Instead, consider just sprinting away from it, and it should miss. But if times are tough, it's much better to get roll caught by a laser than get punched in the ass by a fist. After this continues for a while, Sha'Hala will attempt to smash the player with the orb he holds. This has a suction effect, deals massive damage, and applies the suppressed blight. This is accompanied by a loud sound cue. When the sound cue plays, your current position is where the orb will come down a few seconds later. Thus, when you hear it, it's best to continue moving in whatever direction you already were heading. If you turn around and run the other way, you will not get far from your very original position. After Sha'Hala retracts the orb, the fight will return to the previous phase for several attacks. Instead of a sequence of floating balls and lasers, the dark phase may involve lightning arcs flying around the arena, like the attack from earlier. Once again, they will deal no initial damage, but will turn damaging after a moment. The lightning can be avoided fairly easily by just walking to safe spots, with maybe an occasional roll. The fists will also come up from the ground, and after some time, this sequence is finished with the orb being placed on the arena as well. There's a third variant of this phase where floating hands will aim blinking pointers at the player before firing a beam at them. They will stop tracking the player a moment before firing, so the key to avoiding damage is to simply keep moving. It's best to trace where the beams will be fired from, and to move perpendicular to that point. Moving directly towards or away from them will likely have you taking damage. Like the other two variants, the fists will also come up from the ground, and the sequence will finish with the orb being placed in the arena. All three variants of this dark phase can be very stamina demanding if you're not careful. It is easy to drain your stamina with unnecessary rolling and sprinting, so you should try to be mindful of your actions and walk as much as possible. If you still find yourself empty, adjusting your stamina investment would be wise, such as using a mud-tooth stew concoction. That's all the advice I have for you today for taking on Sha'Hala, Spectral Guardian of Narud. Hopefully this guide will help you if you are having trouble. If you have additional questions, leave a comment, and I'll reply to it if I ever get notified. Thank you for watching.